Hey guys, Bristleman 945 here. Welcome back to another video. Um, and this video is going to be my thoughts on the Attack on Titan finale. Because I knew I had to make a video for it. It's something that is that important to me. Um, And to not beat around the bush, I thought that the ending was absolutely perfect. Um, Beyond perfect, actually. It was the greatest ending to anything I've ever seen, by far. Um, Gosh, I don't even know where to start. The animation and art direction from MAPPA in this one episode is like double the already extremely high standard that they set with the first special that came out in March earlier this year. And it is by far the best that Attack on Titan has ever looked with regards to animation and art direction. Um, God, some of the shots legit gave me chills because of how absolutely stunning they look. Like, I cannot stress enough how amazing the art direction was in this episode. Um, the music was also top tier, top tier. Um, it had like a mix of very like familiar themes, but it also had like the orchestrated parts felt so emotional and it felt so original and different from the other musical parts of the score. And the fact that Linked Horizon also played in the credits was freaking incredible. Like callback to that. Um, the action, like, oh my god, it was incredible. Like the mix between the use of 2D and 3 animation for the Titans was like flawless. And this is coming from a guy that was a huge supporter of Mappa's like fully 3D approach to animating the Titans in the first place. But I think like, and this is just another nod to the animation, but like the way they managed to mix the two styles together seamlessly only also further contributed to the absolute highest quality of the action, I think. So that's, I guess, all the supplementary stuff out of the way. Um, I loved how, okay, and I feel like I should make this clear. I have not read the manga for Attack on Titan. I was familiar that the ending was unpopular with a lot of people, but I knew nothing whatsoever about anything in the manga ending. I've watched a couple YouTube videos and now I have a general understanding about what people didn't like about the manga ending and what they think the anime ending did better. But I just feel like that's an important clarification to make before we go further in discussing the characters in this video. Um, and I'm gonna start with probably the simplest one that I thought was executed to perfection, and that was Levi. Um, because you get a lot of reflections with Levi in particular, maybe even more than actual spoken dialogue in the episode. Um, and of course, he is demonstrating that he has by far the best action scenes of any character in the show. I mean, the way like that moment where he like was facing off against was like a version of the female Titan, a version of the Jaw Titan, and a version of the um was it the Warhammer? I think uh it was like three different varieties of Titans, and he kills them all at the same time. I love Levi. He's such an awesome badass. Um, and man, is that just the beginning of the characters? Because not only does that happen with Levi, but we also get this absolutely fantastic, like I mentioned previously, the monologues. These monologues are so fantastic for understanding, like getting his reflections on the entire like situation as a whole, and like him reflecting on it's finally actually kind of explored further in detail, like why he actually chose Armin over Erwin. And I think being able to learn more about that is crucial to just understanding Levi at an even deeper level, even though he's a character that already had gone through so much development in the show. Um, I just think that learning that new perspective provided a really, really interesting insight into him as a character. And that was probably the most shallow, I think. Um, I loved seeing Annie again. I love like how different I guess her dynamic is here. Um, Seeing John and Connie, both of them together, and just like the general sense of urgency that's created by all of them working together was amazing. Um, and the when they're like fighting the Titans, I love the fact that it's revealed that Ymir Fritz is the one that's stopping them, not Aaron, staying true to his word in that way. Um, and so I can't know for a second. I loved the like the idea of bringing back like showing these old generations of Titans was such an interesting idea, and I think it allows for so much more creativity in the animation and the different because you can tell there is a ton of different inspirations for the different styles and designs of the Titans, and in a way it was actually kind of like a fun guessing game trying to figure out what kind of Titan was which, because some were obvious and some were much less obvious as to the specific type of Titan they were. And also Titan archers are a thing, apparently. That was crazy. Seeing that with the Warhammer Titans that just drew a bunch of arrows. Um, seeing Falco and Gabby come back was um an amazing detail, I thought. Falco's bird form really evolved a lot faster than I would have expected. Um, and then um Gabby is there too. And I think this really serves as a lot of crucial redemption um from Gabby for me, I think. Um, and then speaking of people who are related to each other, uh, Reiner was another big highlight of this episode. Um, surprisingly, like less of a highlight than like the main three, Aaron, Mikasa, and Armin, but um, like, dude, his endurance as the art, like when he was in his armored Titan form, and the way he almost got battered to death like 3 times while fighting off Titans was just amazing. Um, and um, I loved like also like the way that the concept for the Titans actually worked in this episode. I thought that the decision to like make it so like they eventually like became under the control of their allies was this amazing detail. And for that, I have to kind of, I guess, transition into the conversation that not Aaron, Armin and Zeke have in the past. And this is such an amazing scene because I feel like really concludes Zeke's character perfectly. Um, and it also provides that much more depth to Armin as a character, in that you have these two characters. You like this is how you know it's a deep ass character scene when two characters that have never met, have completely different ideals, are able to understand each other and come to the same conclusion about the correct action to take. And like all the other figures showing up, like Aaron Kruger, Grisha, Tom Cassava, like all of them showing up, and Zeke's reflection, and like the imagery of like Armin's leaf being Zeke's baseball, and him realizing that the Foundry Mirror just wanted connection. Oh my god, it was brilliant. It was so good, and that's not even the best scene um in this episode. Not even close. Another highlight. Well, and then I guess I love that like directly after that, Levi finally kills Zeke, because not only is that extremely satisfying and something that has been anticipated for Levi to do for a very, very long time, and two, it's such a fitting end to Zeke as a character because um all of his talk about life and his reflections on everything. Um, and in that one moment, it's just this little detail, but he's finally able to appreciate the little things instead of constantly just like thinking about there's so much detail of all these other things, and just trying to constantly analyze and overthink things like he did for literally everything else. Um, and then I feel like the next thing I really want to talk about is the scene that's kind of like an alternate timeline with the one with the cabin with Aaron and Mikasa where they're like staying together. Number one, the amount of references between the two from the early series is ridiculous. I barely caught any of them because there were so many. But it was like this amazingly nostalgic feeling of callback. Um, and seeing the two of them together, um, it was just it's this amazing thing where it's like this actual realized like future of Mika's dreams where she confesses her true feelings to Aaron. Um, and man, I think the way that dichotomy works is fantastic, and the fact that like the setting, like the cabin, looks like Mika's old house her and her parents used to live in. Um, and like the general symbolism that the scarf creates with like Aaron asking Mikasa to forget him once he dies and Mikasa not being able to do that. Um, uh, just another incredible scene. And then the way this switches back over to this like scenery between this like as they're finally heading towards Aaron to kill him finally. Um Another thing that I really want to shout out that's like I feel like is such an underappreciated attention to detail part is like when you see like the Marlians trying to help out um Armin's group as they're trying to take out Aaron. This little detail of like Mr. Landhart like taking up the I guess battalion, no, baton, I guess, or whatever the word is for it, and trying to lead them peacefully, and the fact that the Marleans still have this massive distrust of them, I think is so telling of how just amazing this show is at continuing to push its themes through directly at you, even to the very end, despite all this other shit that's going on. And you still have this like idea of this theme of like this endless cycle of hatred and distrust between them until it's finally resolved near the very end. Um, and nowhere is this better encapsulated than the scene where like they finally take down Aaron's Titan. They get the weird, creepy spinal thing. They're finally able to restrain it, but then it releases the same mist that was from Coney's village. And um, then literally minute, like moments after finally seeing all of these characters reunite with their parents. Like, you see Gabby and Falco reunite with their parents. You see Reiner see his mother, and his mother accepts him for who he is as a person, finally. You have, and then probably the most emotional of all, you finally see the reunification between Annie and her dad. And then, like, seconds later, they are all turned into titans. And I cannot express in words how just mind blowing, shocking, and just straight up soul crushing that was to me because it was the last thing I could have possibly expected to happen right in that moment. Um, and then, dude, seeing John and Connie just standing there because they wouldn't have been affected because they didn't have Titan powers. God, seeing them just like holding on to each other, like clasping each other's arms, like by the shoulders, like this, as they just stand there with like no regrets whatsoever, and and how that even further reflects the symbolism of how they were initially the two that were the most afraid to join the scouts, and now they're like the two that are being the most fearless and brave by sacrificing themselves for the rest of their friends. God, that um I don't cry at things very often, but that was just like one of those moments that got me really, really goddamn close. Um, and then, and I know some people had a problem with them being alive at the end, but honestly, I was so happy because I think the way that that misdirection works is so clever. And it feels like such a rewarding payoff for as a viewer for having to experience that much pain at once, and then it's all resolving and you feel good again. Um, now, the other, well, I guess, um, I loved that Aaron died. I thought that was such a perfect resolution. He should not have been kept alive just after everything that he did. Um, and I love the end of how Mikasa cut off his head finally and just like put an end to it. Um, and then we have to talk about this is something I was saving till like I wanted to get through everything else that I want to talk about first before getting to the conversation between Aaron and Armin because that entire conversation is like God, it's gotta be one of my favorite moments in not just Attack on Titan, not just anime, not just um all of TV shows, but probably all of fiction, if I'm being realistic. Um, because my God, there were so many facets to that conversation that made Aaron and Armin two of the richest, most developed, most complex, most endearing most well-written characters in all of Attack on Titan. Um, and like the start of like explaining how like the connection between Ymir and how he explains that to Armin. Um, and another little detail that I just adored is the way that like even though they were in the past, like the way it seemed to like evolve through their ages, I guess, as different things were being explained. That was such a genius little detail, and I adored how I just adored that because it added so much, I guess, context and meaning to like how like long and um I guess fruitful their relationship has been to the both of them, despite all the conflicts and fights that they went through with each other. Um, and you get a bunch of explanation, and by far, going back to animation again, the most stunning shot in the art is when it zooms out and they're talking about how much like Aaron for the first time mentions how he murdered 80% of humanity, and then the camera zooms out and it suddenly just turns to like this sea of red and flesh. And it is the most stunning shot and the most well directed art scene in the entire episode. Um, and also the reveal that like Aaron actually was the one that directed the Dyna Titan away from Bertolt to to his own mother. Like every single time I think I truly understand like the full like looping nature of Attack on Titan and how it represents the endless cycle of hatred. Then facts like that come along and just completely warp my brain all over again to make me rethink everything that I thought I'd figured out. Um, and I love the absolute most, the way like Aaron's line that he was a garden variety idiot who got his hands on a bunch of power. And also like the breakdown of him like wanting to be with Mikasa. Not only did I think that was really funny, but also it's so in character for Aaron, I think. Um And like him finally accepting about himself all of his major flaws was like the last major thing that he needed to do in order to feel finally truly free. And the reconciliation between him and Armin was beautiful, and like everything about their back and forth held so much meaning to it, and the dialogue was just absolute top tier. Um, that entirety of the scene was by far the best thing about the entire episode. And the last thing that I really want to talk about, which is very directly related to the scene in general, but how like, by watching this episode, I think I'm finally able to explain properly why Aaron is my favorite fictional character of all time. At least with regards to season 4 and the ending of this series. Um, and, um, and also, I finally feel like I'm able to explain my stance, which not everyone agrees with. Like a lot of people don't agree with me on this, but I never thought Aaron was the villain. I never thought he really was a villain. Um, and I feel like I'm finally able to explain why because of this finale. And and this I guess would also be my counter argument to people who say they didn't like the ending because of the way Aaron's character was handled. Well, number one, I say F you, that's That's bullshit. But two, um, I say that these people completely misunderstood Aaron as a character. Aaron was never this like badass, manly character. You could tell based on his breakdown about Mikasa and wanting to be with her, and and also this and also like him admitting that he was a complete idiot who got his hands on a bunch of power that he should not have had. Um, because the ultimate, I guess, irony about Aaron's character is the ultimate thing that he ever wanted to do was be free and be able to live by the concept of what he considered to be truly free and liberated from all things. And then him admitting and finally realizing that the very thing that he desired the most was actually the thing that was keeping him from feeling true freedom, the one thing that he was actually a slave to the entire time, was the idea of freedom itself. And this idea of being a slave to freedom, the way that it just fully connects with every facet of Aaron's character just makes him the most fascinating, profound, interesting, and deep character ever written in all of fiction, in my opinion. And that is why he is my favorite character in all of fiction for that reason. And lastly, I feel like I need to bring up the post-credit scene because this was a work of pure genius, I think. Um, and the way that it starts off, number one, you can kind of number one, in the kind of like final scene after everything concludes, you see like where the rest of the heroes are now, and the fact they're like allies for the forces is amazing. And then seeing Mikasa on the tree and the absolutely striking image of her scarf getting pulled by a bird. Um, God, that was such an amazing scene. And then you get the credits. And in the post-credit scene, you see um oh, like Mikasa went to go visit Aaron's grave, and eventually she also passed away in old age. And I love the idea. It's not really directly confirmed, but like I love the like I guess suggestion that the nod that it could have been possible that like again it's hard to tell, but like the nod it could have been possible that she eventually married John because of the fact that John has always had feelings for Mikasa. I love that but like little detail that you could potentially observe. Um and then her dying of old age, I think signified so much about like what the type of life that Aaron wanted her to live. Um and then like seeing the way that parody as a civilization evolved into like this massive industrial empire of sorts, like futuristic civilization, all this crazy stuff, almost like a sci-fi approach to it. Um, but how that ultimately ended in um another cycle of war, which like further brings home the theme and actually a quite dark ending, I think, that no matter what you do, like no matter the actions of individuals at all, like no matter what is done, like humanity will always like even without the Titans in the world at all, with the power of the Titans with Ymir gone, all that, the Eren did, all that stuff. The cycle of hatred will continue to repeat itself. I loved that. And it was insane to me how much, not just that, but this episode in general, just continued to push forward one of the main themes of the show while doing everything else that happened in the show. I cannot praise it enough for that. And I love how also the tree on the hill was like this symbolism of peace and things that remained unchanged. Um, and this kind of like continuing symbol for hope despite all the fire and destruction around it. And then like the very, very last scene where you see like the descendant of like who should be wearing Mikasa scarf and is assumed to be like one of their descendants, and he's about to enter the tree in the same exact way that Ymir did when she was seeking connection. The symbolism in that was so goddamn powerful. And then just having to see the words "the end" instead of like "to be continued" for like another episode is, I guess, what finally like really stuck it in for me that this was finally over officially. Despite this knowledge in my head, I knew I was watching the finale, and after I finished the episode was done. Something about that just really, really, really stuck as like I knew it. Right then and there. So, in conclusion, um, that this finale episode of Attack on Titan is the greatest episode of TV I think I've ever seen. And like the knowledge, like the fact I called this the greatest work of fiction I've ever seen, even before um the first of these the March special even came out. But now knowing that it has like it was so perfect. It was beyond perfect. It reached levels that exceed my definition of perfection. It is beyond perfect. It is the only way I can describe how much I love Attack on Titan. And this knowledge that the ending is literally could not be more conceivably perfect in my brain to every single character, every single aspect of the series and the themes and everything makes me absolutely 100% firm in my belief that Attack on Titan is the greatest work of fiction I have ever consumed in my life, and it will probably continue to be that for the rest of my lifetime. I am fully convinced of that. That is going to do it for this video. It took me a couple days to really, really think about what I wanted to say, but I knew I absolutely had to make a video about my thoughts on this, on the finale in general, because of just how much it means to me. So if you made it all the way through this video, thank you so much for watching. Um, and I will see you later. Bye.